Hello, I'm Peter Greiner. I'm a London-based violin maker, and since this summer I have a sabbatical here in Tel Aviv in Israel. And I just want to show you around. We are just living here 5 minutes away from the concert hall of the Tel Aviv, the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. And they do have the most amazing concerts here, conducted by Stefan Mehta. I heard last month Pinkas Zuckerman, Itzhak Perlman, Leonidas Kavakos, and Misha Maisky and Marta Argerich is performing soon. And you can have the most amazing concerts here, this concert hall. So as you probably know, a lot of the old generation violin players are Israeli and are actually born in Israel, like people like Menuhin, Milstein. They all have, Ifri Gidlis, they all have their roots here in Israel, and you still feel that Israel is in a way the home of the violin and of the classical music. Now we can go to my studio that I have here in this nice setting close to the concert hall. Hello, welcome to my Tel Aviv violin making studio. I'm just sharpening the knife to cut the fluting of this violin back. You can be part of that. I made the purfling yesterday. Now I have to cut the fluting. This is a model I normally use. I developed it over the last 30 years, and it is quite distinguished corners, and the purfling follows it quite strongly. And the wood is maple from a very low cut in a tree, very low, close to the root, so it's quite I would say uneven and a strong figure. Quite wild, and you also feel this wild unevenness when you cut it. So when I finished with the fluting, I go closer with the arching, and as a last step I take the scraper and finish the outside. When I finish the outside, I go to the inside. And my method is here with this compass to make circles where I measure the thickness, and I'm still ½ millimeter away where I want to be. I also feel that the plate is still a bit too stiff, so it has to get quite a bit thinner. So these lines give me a thickness where it should be, let's start with 3.2 millimeter, and we still have 3.5. So take this plane and take with the measure again. So it's still 3.5. So it takes a while. So you see, it's not Here we have now a bit thinner in the middle. It's still 5.5, so it's quite strong in the middle. And here we have also 5, so that all has to go a bit down, but now I concentrate on this part. Down 3.3, and the 3mm is still a bit too much, so on the end it will end up with something like 2.8. But that is very much depending on the material. So the final thickness, the final graduation I do with bending and finding out how stiff the plate is, because every material is a bit different, so I have to make the graduation, the thickness of the plate according to the material and according to the arching that I have from the outside. For me it doesn't matter if I make my instruments in Germany, in London or here in Israel, because I take everything with me. I take my tools with me, I take the material. The main difference, probably also the main reason why I'm here, is that I have here really the patience, and I have the very relaxed, calm atmosphere here where I can do my instruments, where I can do kind of really get into that, not be disturbed by people by telephone. So not so many people do know that I'm here, and so I have more quiet time and quality time to create these instruments here. I almost feel a bit like Beethoven that had to escape from one flat to another in Vienna, because as soon as the people found out, oh, Beethoven is living here, and he had to escape to the new flat. And I'm not comparing myself to Beethoven, but at least every place where I go to, it takes a while until people find out, oh, he's there, and then I can then probably escape to the next place. Well, definitely my instruments are inspired by old masters of violin making, especially the work of Guarneri del Gesu. Yeah, I like it a lot, and I without copying it, I try to work in his spirit. And Guarneri was a very free maker that didn't follow one style. He had different ways of cutting F-holes, and every F-hole of his instrument looks differently to the one before. And I like this freedom. Sound-wise, I can also relate to the instruments because they can have a very dark and rough sound, which is very close to a human voice again, and not as sophisticated and refined as the sound of some Stradivari instruments. At the age of 14, I made my first instrument, and the decision to make this instrument was because people told me that I wasn't good enough as a musician, so that there's no way for me to become a professional violinist. And after I finished the first violin at the age of 14, I decided to become a violin maker. Well, for sure it's very exciting for me to go to concerts where musicians play on my instrument, the instrument that I made. And I'm normally getting very nervous when I'm listening to this concert. And and I heard great concerts played by Christian Tetzlaff. And but I think one of the most moving things for me was the Alban Berg Quartet playing one of their last concerts. Was the first violin, the viola was from me, and because I feel very close to the string quartet music in general, and to hear that concert with these old masters played with a modern instrument, I felt quite touched by that. Well, altogether I probably made 2 or 3 real copies, what is called nowadays bench copy. And after that I started my own style, but staying with the antiquing of the varnish. And the reason why I did that is purely that my idea of modern making is that it has to go together with the old instrument. Mentioned Alban Berg Quartet, they had two of my instruments, and they had a Goffriller cello and a Stradivari violin. And to have this together also means they should not look completely differently. So it should be a unit, so that the old instrument and the new instrument, they match, they look good together. That is the reason why I still make an old looking instrument, even it's not a copy, but that involves the antiquing of the varnish. And that has a long tradition. Viome did it, other makers did in between, but you can still see that is clearly a Viome and not a Stradivari, even if he copied the style of an old instrument. But we are all in a tradition. We want to make instruments that look beautiful, and we're used to the idea of an old looking instrument. But again, the main reason is that it should go together with the old instrument. I'm 54 years old, and many people say that I look younger, and what is the secret looking younger than you are? I actually can't answer this question. I think it has to do with that you have joy in life, that you enjoy what you are doing, that you enjoy what you are eating. You are not eating things only because they are healthy, you eat things because you like to eat them. You like to be outside, you like to, for example, make instruments, and that is so joyful to do that, and I love it so much. And a lot of violin makers like Stradivari and Amati, they died in a very high, so they got very old, and probably because they love their profession, they love their life.